Hello future people, thank you for watching Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today we're unboxing some paintbrushes. Alright, so what I have here is some Broken Toad paintbrushes. Anybody that's been listening to us for a while may have heard me talk about Broken Toad before. I'm a very big fan of this brand. So, straight up, I might have a bias here, because I'm a very big fan of this brand, but I'll try to remove my bias from the situation. I haven't bought new brushes for quite a while, which is why I purchased these. Yes, I purchased these. I haven't tried Broken Toad's current brand of brushes, their MK3, just because... So I was always a very big fan of MK2. From what I understand, everything that I've read, these are just as good, if not slightly better than the old ones. But I will get to find that out for myself now, because I actually finally have some. These were very hard to get in Australia for a while. But let's have a look. Now, this is a full box of their range. The first thing I want to say is Broken Toad have really improved their packaging. Big channels like Unbox Therapy and stuff talk about an unboxing experience. This is a much nicer unboxing experience than their old one, which was just plain brown cardboard box and you lifted the lid. This is just really nice. Sliding it out. Same sort of packaging that their old brushes came in. Some really nice foam. It just feels really nice. And you put everything away, and it slides in. And because you have the sideways and then the slipcase, this is never going to come apart in your bag or anything. I think this has been really well thought through. I mean, does the box it come in matter? No, not really. But it's just really nice to get something and actually enjoy opening it. Maybe you think this is dumb, but I don't know. It's nice that the companies actually put some thought into what they're actually doing with their packaging. And the backing cardboard gives you, honestly, some decent tips on actually keeping your brushes working well. So never using your good brush to remove paint from the pot or mix and thin paint on your brush. The reason that they're giving you that advice is that 9 times out of 10 when you're doing that, the paint is going to be going past the ferrule and you'll end up ruining your brush if you're doing it regularly. Never allow paint to gather more than halfway up the bristles. That's another one that people are very bad for. I'm usually pretty good with this. Rinse the brush regularly in cold water. Always replace the cap after working. Again, makes sense, because otherwise it's going to happen. The only thing that is not listed on there is something else that a lot of people do. When you're storing your brushes, if you are storing them upright, you want to store them this way. The reason is that if you store them upright, any liquid that's left inside the bristles is going to seep down into the ferrule. The reason I mention this is most brush storages try to get you to store them this way. And people don't put them this way because then the rubber cap or the plastic cap gets stuck and then you lose it inside the thing. I've been trying to find one that's more appropriate. Generally, I tend to store my brushes this way. If I can have them on lean, I do, but I'd like to find one that's actually this way but leans in a certain direction. That would be much nicer. But we'll see. Now, personally, the number 2 brush is the one that I will use the most. People may find this confusing because generally speaking, you're going to get one of 2 thoughts on this. Either you're going to get the thought that I'm giving you, or you're going to get the thought where if you're going for detail, you need the smallest brush that you can. Honestly, personally, I find smaller brushes harder to get fine detail with than the larger ones. But if you're going to use a larger brush, you need a larger brush that has a good tip on it. Because you're going to be able to get more paint into your brush, and that means that it won't dry out as fast. And you don't want your paint drying in your brush, because that's another thing that's going to cause your bristles to go... because then you'll have to damage your bristles trying to get the dry paint out. So, Broken Toad are nice and springy. As you saw, it did take me a little bit to get that gel to break. You definitely want to be watering these down before you start using them. But I really like the consistency of the bristles on the Broken Toad. If you're someone that would prefer a synthetic brush, they do have a line of synthetic brushes as well that I might check out at some point. I don't really know. They are slightly cheaper, unlike some of the G-Dub ones, which still confuses me. But I haven't tried the synthetic ones yet. So, number one is another very common size, just because it's a nice balance between holding enough paint to actually work with and having a tip fine enough to still be able to do fine detail. Whereas, I mean, that one does have a nice tip on it, but this one's slightly sharper. Personally, I prefer the number 2. If you're new to paintbrushing, my advice is not to take my advice and test things out for yourself. The advice that you get from others is definitely helpful, but I'm not Angel Roldez. But it's not just a matter of, like, you can take all of the advice from professional painters that you like, but you still are going to need to find your own style. And experimenting and things not going right isn't a bad thing, because that's how you learn how to get better. So if you're new, like, following advice is very helpful, but don't be afraid to try your own thing. Buy some really crappy cheap brushes and just try them. There are professional painters out there that refuse to spend more than a few dollars on brushes. These are a lot more than a few dollars. There's your 0. This is probably what I would say is the most common size. Another thing that's probably worth mentioning is, despite most brushes having a fairly universal naming scheme, truth of the matter is, the numbers are not an industry standard. If you get this 0 next to a Winsor & Newton Series 7.0, it's not going to be the same. Likewise with Raphael and all of the other ones. Like, that's not how it works. Their number sizing is amongst their own brand. Now, this is your nice and small one. And this is where the keen among you are probably going to be wondering, well, if you're talking about how you generally don't use the small ones and don't recommend using the small ones, why did you waste your money on the full set and not just buy the sizes that you're going to use? Well, in all honesty, this is where me talking about experimenting comes in. What I'm in the middle of preparing to paint is a whole heap of Bot War stuff. And I want to do these with a cel-shaded painting style, much like Mike from Epicdemic Studios teaches. The thing I've always struggled with that style on the larger brushes is getting the black lining to work. And I want to experiment with a smaller brush to see if that works better for me. It may work, it may not work, but I want to try, because my current way of doing it, for me, is not satisfactory. Look, it is what it is. I mean, it's my head probably doing me in, but it's something I want to try because I want to give myself a chance to get it right. I'm a huge fan of this range. Broken Toad is a range that I came across when they came into Australia a couple of years ago. I purchased these from my local... I purchased them originally from a local store. These I actually bought directly from the supplier that brings them into the country, because they finally actually brought some into the country. I had asked about it more than once and just never really got an answer, but they're finally here, so I finally brought some. I might actually try some of the synthetic ones again. I haven't really had a synthetic brush for a while, but I don't know, I'm kind of tempted to try some, but I don't see myself buying the full box of the synthetics just because I don't see myself using them as much. From here, my intention will be is that I just replace them as I need them. I'm going to try and work very hard to get these to last me as long as my Winsor & Newton Series 7 has. It's still going, technically. But I was just in the point where it was time to start preparing for a new brush. So, it's what I wanted to do, and it's what I have done. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you're enjoying the content of this channel, please like and subscribe. If you're in a position to do so, please check out patreon.com/gettingtabled. You receive early access to at least 80% of all videos that we put out, and you get access to the video edition of all of our podcasts the day that they're uploaded. If you'd like to check us out on social media, facebook.com/gettingtabled is the most active. We also have a Discord server. You can email our team at gettingtabled@gmail.com. If you're on either Twitter or Instagram, you can find us at gettingtabled. And until next time, play more.